From Transport Topics in Washington, D.C., this is RoadSigns. Here is your host, Seth Clevenger.
Thank you for listening to RoadSigns, the podcast series from Transport Topics that explores the trends and technologies that are shaping the future of trucking. In this episode, we're going to discuss use cases for artificial intelligence in the freight transportation industry. We hear about it constantly. Advances in AI are driving the future of software development, making it possible to extract more value from data, automate more tasks, and ultimately transform the way people work. But moving beyond the hype, how can AI improve the way transportation companies manage their fleets? We'll set out to answer that question in this episode. But before we begin, I'd like to invite you to keep up to date on this topic and other important industry issues by subscribing to Transport Topics at ttn.ws/TT-subscribe. You can also text TT-subscribe to 571-622-0001. And now, to learn more about artificial intelligence in trucking, I'm very excited to bring in Deepti Yenireddy, founder and CEO of Boon.ai, a startup company that's using artificial intelligence to enhance efficiency in the transportation industry. Welcome to the podcast, Deepti.
Thank you so much for having me, Seth. It's a pleasure to be here and to be talking about all things transportation AI.
Yeah, so as you know, as we really all know these days, there's just an enormous amount of hype about AI right now. So I think back to some of the shows I've been to this year, like CES and Manifest. So much of the dialogue these days is focused on advances in AI and its potential use cases. So to begin this conversation, I'd love to hear from you your advice to people in the transportation industry on how they can better understand what's real, what's hype, and how AI can really make a difference for fleet operators.
Absolutely. It's so magical, isn't it? All the advances in AI that are happening. All of us use ChatGPT or similar tools in this day and age on a day-to-day basis. But you bring up a good point. How does this really apply to transportation and how do we think about it? I think we at Boon think about it a few different ways. One is, how much of this is transportation ready? In terms of, hey, there are systems and nuances that are specific to this industry, and can AI be applied to bring real value to what we do on a day-to-day basis? So I think the questions to ask are really the use cases and value. Does this AI technology help me bring more revenue to my company? Does it help improve efficiency? How do we bring AI and make it work with humans and think about change management? And what is the true ROI? What can AI do versus what can AI not do? How can I complement it to bring about the best in my people? Those are some of the questions that I would encourage fleets to ask. And then, of course, interoperability is key, making sure these tools or AI in general can work with your current systems. You shouldn't have to change anything at all. That's the beauty about AI.
Yeah, for sure. I think that certainly in the transportation industry, very much focused on that return on investment, and this is yet another case. Not technology for technology's sake, but how can this really make you more efficient? How can this improve the bottom line?
In the face of uncertainty, some things remain steady, like the Cummins 2027 X15. Built on 25 plus years of experience and delivering up to 4% better fuel efficiency in a weight-neutral system, the X15 gives you the strength to move forward fearlessly and confidence that no matter the obstacle, you can and will rise above it. The 2027 X15, forever rising. Estimates based on preliminary testing. Individual results may vary.
Now, at Boon.ai, a big part of what you're doing is using AI to better connect the many different technologies and software systems that fleet managers are using in our industry. And that's a pretty long list for some of the more sophisticated fleet operators out there, and even some of the smaller and mid-sized companies. So one example could be connecting the fleet telematics and ELDs, fuel cards, vehicle maintenance information, and tying that all in with the company's transportation management system that's really at the core of the company's operations. But how can an AI platform improve those integrations that are so important and create more seamless workflows? Just tell us how that works.
Absolutely. Yes, we are building an agent tech platform similar to what you articulated. It goes back to we as humans working on so many different systems and performing tasks, right? And we have so much context. Truly, humans are magical beings. And our thesis came from how do we replicate this, right? When you onboard a human into your team to work across multiple systems, do things slightly differently and make things happen. How can AI start replicating that? And if we think about a future with AI workers, they need to be able to do the same. And collectively integrating all the data into one place is really important for these agents or AI to work. So, on that note, we spend a lot of time on integrations, not just integrating various systems together, but constantly innovating how integrations can happen. And with agentic AI, it's getting a lot easier and faster to spin up integrations. It's
Mhm.
also becoming easier to self heal those integrations because integrations break. And historically, maintaining integrations has been a huge cost, time commitment for many technology companies. With AI and applying that to integrations and self healing them, it's becoming a lot faster, easier to be able to work with that data. Once that happens, learning context from historical data is important. That is, what did we do when this customer gave us this instruction about this particular location to be delivered to? So, AI in general, being able to consume that data, understand the context from those different data sources that you articulated, fuel cards, telematics, TMSs, etc. And then lastly, being able to read and understand any text document completes that trio for any AI worker to be useful to do day-to-day tasks.
Yeah, and speaking of day-to-day tasks, some of the processes that you're working to automate at Boon.ai include data entry, load sourcing, regulatory compliance, to name a few. Maybe just take us through some of those examples and explain how you're using AI to automate some of those routine tasks in our industry.
Absolutely. I think majority of businesses do this, right? They source business or source loads, then they enter them into their TMS, OMS, and then comply while delivering those, communicate with drivers, customers, etc. What we are doing is taking each task at a time and then helping automate the day-to-day activities so that we as humans are enabled with that AI to do a much better job than humans without AI. So taking one use case as an example, order entry. So we help enable connecting to any source where the orders come from, be it email, be it your shipper system, be it a phone call, intake that data and extract 20 to 60 different fields out of it to be able to enrich that with historical context and then put it into the DMS. For example, it could be a rate con, many millions of types of rate cons. And then your TMS has the context, that is when this rate con came in, what shipper consignee code did you enter? So those are all taken care of by our system so that any order that comes in goes into your system instantly. And then you also have a human recourse where you're able to change anything as you see fit through our order review process as well. So giving you the power of automation, but at the same time giving a sense of control so you can change things accordingly. The same goes for load sourcing. So once we enter the order, we also know which vehicles need more business. Being able to, take that information from the TMS and then go, connect with some of our load board partners and pull loads that are profitable that are relevant in terms of equipment and details for this company, and pushing them straight into their email, which is their preferred mode of work. So these are some of the workflows, and we end up saving tons of time. You won't believe majority of these companies spend 50-60% of their time doing this task. So that now that we automate this, they can make decisions on, hey, let's negotiate, let's go figure out, how to schedule the best appointment to optimize our fleet's time.
Yeah, certainly. The nature of the day-to-day work that people will be performing in the future will change. I think as we see more and more of this type of technology enter the industry. I also wanted to dig into an example I saw on your website that I thought was interesting, dealing with fuel station recommendations for fleets. That's an example, I think, of how AI can gives you the ability as a company to parse massive amounts of data that a human analyst or a fleet manager is never going to have time to fully analyze. So maybe just give us an example of how this works with fuel station recommendations, being the example here, and how much can fleets just improve their operations in general by making better choices, even a choice like where to fuel up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll also talk about a fun story of how this use case came about. It goes to show that while we may be really good at what we build, our customers are the best at what they do. So this actually was a brainchild of one of our customers, and the pain point really came from using daily discount vendors like Pilot Flying J, Loves, etc. And then also thinking through IFTA, because it really matters where you fuel, which state, based on IFTA. And then finally, understanding what routes drivers are taking each day. So it's 3 different sources of data, which are Pilot Flying J or Loves or other daily discount sheets, IFTA, which is on their website. And then finally, the customers or our customers TMS. And what we did is connect all those 3 together, and then send drivers texts on where to fuel, or through their telematics app, recommendations of where to fuel based on where they're going. We saw significant amounts of savings for each of our customers, at least $5 per vehicle per day. And as your fleet grows, that is a significant amount on an annual basis. But simple use case, tons of different data sources. It would take a human a lot of effort to do this manually, in terms of pulling all those on a daily basis and be able to reach out to drivers and recommend that. This is a perfect use case where automation can easily help, and also, perfect example of how our customers know the industry and know what they're doing the best.
Yeah, well, I appreciate these examples of how you're applying AI in our industry and some of these use cases you're working on. But of course, Boon is still a young company, so I'd actually like to hear a little bit more about its origins. Could you just tell us a little bit about how and why you started the company, in addition to some of your own past experience, both in tech development and in transportation?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to Boon, I used to lead a few product areas at Samsara, so telematics and international, where I first got the exposure to this industry. And prior to Samsara, I was a founder again, built and sold another company building conversational AI. So I knew I wanted to start up again. I just didn't know when. And I knew the next time I didn't want to sell or get acquired. I wanted to take it all the way to IPO. So I joined Samsara pre-IPO and really fell in love with the customer base. So everyday trucking companies that deliver groceries to your local grocery chain, or ambulances that transport sick patients, utility vans that repair your gas lines. So understood the importance of these companies in our economic infrastructure. It's also a huge space. Everything that anyone consumes has some footprint of this industry on that. So really validated the total addressable market as well. And then realized it's extremely underserved. So after leaving Samsara in 2023, just went about spending time with, fleets out here, as well as, other companies in California. So sat in various rooms trying to observe what people did. And one thing became very obvious that everyone used a number of different systems and everyone spent a ton of time transferring data from one to another or making decisions off of data from multiple different systems while making phone calls, keeping everyone updated. And that gave the idea for building something in this space that created automation. At the same time, there's a shift across multiple industries with just how much is going on in AI. So we started Boon with a single mission to create an AI agentic platform that connects multiple systems together for our customers and then automates workflows for them. Starting from, can we help them book revenue faster? Can we help them become more efficient, cut costs, operate more efficiently? But yeah, that is a short story of the history behind Boon.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And, I've, often heard people say that once you wind up in transportation, you tend to be in it for the long haul. This has certainly been true, in my case personally. You see a lot of the same folks in the industry, maybe shifting roles and companies, but people tend to, if they stumble upon this industry, tend to stick with it.
In the face of uncertainty, some things remain steady, like the Cummins 2027 X15, built on 25 plus years of experience and delivering up to 4% better fuel efficiency in a weight-neutral system. The X15 gives you the strength to move forward fearlessly and confidence that no matter the obstacle, you can and will rise above it. The 2027 X15, forever rising. Estimates based on preliminary testing. Individual results may vary.
I wanted to also get a little bit deeper into some of the AI trends and sort of the ways that companies are deploying AI these days. We've already been alluding to this a little bit, but we all obviously see and many of us use various AI co-pilots, right? These are programs that assist workers. They handle parts of their jobs, as well as agentic AI that you've been referencing and working on at Boon, to perform tasks and make decisions autonomously. Just how do you see both AI co-pilots and AI agents playing out in the transportation space? Do you see, I guess, use cases probably for both of these forms?
Yeah, I think we are at an early stage within transportation, even compared to some of the other industries. And the reason being, we've been dealing with a lot since the last 5, 6 years. There was, the post-COVID slowdown where we had an imbalance of supply and demand within the industry. So we're still recovering from that. And there's so many changes going on in this day and age right now that I see our customers respond to. So while a lot of things are happening in AI, there's also a lot of other shifts happening in this transportation industry right now that is pulling people's attention. Secondly, I truly believe that more than other industries, transportation needs this because we operate at lower margins than tech, right? And that's because of very manual, cumbersome processes. So the need is here, the need is imminent. And you bring up a really good point. How much automation, can AI do? How much assisting can AI do, right? Our core belief is humans with AI will replace humans without AI. So this depends on use case by use case, but at the same time, transportation is so nuanced and so detail oriented. For example, transporting strawberries is very different from transporting people. How do you teach a machine that, right? So thinking through all of these nuances, working over multiple different systems takes a lot of finesse, and it'll take a long time for truly autonomous generative agents running around, running a business. But until then, we will definitely assist with enabling a lot of users with AI so they can, focus on core important tasks and then, use AI for, run of the mill, mundane tasks, crunching numbers, helping make data centric decisions.
Yeah, it's helpful, and it's actually a really good segue into the next part of the conversation. Because really, whenever we talk about AI and automation, there's always the question about what this all means for the future of the workforce, right? I mean, people wonder how AI might change the nature of their jobs, or maybe they'll even wonder if their jobs will be automated away entirely. There's some of that angst and concern out there. In general, when I talk to developers, most are positioning AI as really a force multiplier that is going to make business and workers more efficient and more effective at their work. But what do you think about this, Deepti, and what guidance would you provide? How do you envision AI and human labor interacting together in the years ahead?
Yeah, and I say, I'll take this question with a lot of humility because all of us are figuring out, right? But if we go back in time, there were many points in our history where we had these existential questions at all points of time. Industrial revolution being one, mobile, cloud, so many times that we questioned, how we will work together with technology or be replaced. I think humans in general are remarkable creatures. We adapt, we learn, we leverage technology, and then move on and create something bigger, better. So, like I mentioned, I truly believe humans with AI will replace humans without AI. So, all of us will use AI as second nature. And what that means in terms of, how we will work with various systems is we will become more native to our standard communication tools. We will exist more in our email, phones, our mobile phones, and less on various different systems because we'll send agents to do that work for us, right? We truly are. I personally feel lucky to be living right now, in when all this change is happening around us. Mundane, data-intensive parts will be automated while we still make the decisions and use AI agents as, basically our workers to go do a task.
Yeah, I think that's a great overview. And really, I mean, there's so much opportunity here to make a lot of jobs better, at least in my opinion, right? I mean, yeah, I think that, people are wired differently. People have different preferences in the workplace. I like to do things that are kind of different and creative and, dealing with the unknown. That's what humans are good at. The less time I spend doing the mundane and the routine, the better. Right? If you can automate some of that routine, some of the stuff that can be automated, then it does free you up to focus more on those complex tasks, that really matter in transportation, right? Managing the exceptions, the unexpected challenges that always seem to come up in our industry. There's, no matter how well you plan, there's always going to be something unexpected with freight. So just in your view, how do you envision back office jobs in the transportation industry changing as AI takes hold?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in my opinion, we will start seeing more AI workers, 30, 40%, and upwards of 70% will be automated with AI, where AI is the front line in taking the task to almost the finish line. Because, as you said, AI is far cry from being 100% accurate, but it can take it to the finish line where we or humans can finish the job. And this can be like the use cases that we touched: order entry or data entry, invoice auditing and uploading, even payroll calculations, right? In the transportation industry, there's so many complex components that we use in order to calculate payroll, and make that happen on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, and drivers are waiting to be paid. I think with AI, or imagine a payroll agent that automates calculations, that speeds up pay, almost instantly to drivers, as we know their history in terms of how did they perform the last 6 months, etc. But we will definitely see a lot of back office AI assistant workers that help with this. And if I'm if my numbers are fairly accurate, there's at least one back office person for every 4 or 5 drivers, including a dispatcher planner. That's huge amount of resources in this industry. And that's also why some of the margins are lower than, let's say, tech. And this is one area where we see and expect a huge change in terms of just the cash coming back to a business and with the automation that they can enable.
Yeah, for sure. And you've referenced a couple points the market conditions for trucking companies these days, right? It's been a pretty rough 3 years now. Rates have been low. The industry is still in an overcapacity situation. The number of trucks and truck capacity relative to freight demand. So rates have been soft and margins have been even thinner than usual in an industry that usually operates on thin margins. Uh, I'm curious what you're seeing in terms of what that means for technology investment. Because on one hand, of course, it's harder to invest in technology, even when technology is improving and you see value in it. If you don't have the capital, you hold off. But also, when there are thin margins, there's even more urgency to improve your processes, to control your costs. So kind of being, you see companies being pulled in both directions. From your vantage point, Deepti, how is this affecting technology adoption, technology investment in the transportation industry? Are we waiting for a stronger rebound in the freight market to see people invest, or are people still finding ways even when times are tough?
We are seeing more and more fleets wanting to automate more. The healthier ones are definitely in it. Historically, they've been investing in getting a dedicated contracted customer base. So they're a little bit healthier, rely less on the spot market. They're definitely in. But what we are noticing is even the ones which are struggling, and seeing where they can run things more efficiently, thinking really hard and deep in terms of, hey, how do we think about our workforce? How do we scale up or down and make things flexible? And especially when AI can do things at 1/10 of the cost, it's really compelling for some of these businesses, no matter how long you hold back just to see the market conditions improve. So from our perspective, while I still have to caveat, we're still early. We see the early adopters adopting AI right now, but at the same time, we do see businesses that are struggling also look for vast amounts of efficiency that AI can provide. It'll take time, though, Seth. It'll take at least a few years for us to really embark on that journey. That for example, tech industry is most developers now use AI tools for coding. I think it'll take at least 2, 3, 4 years until transportation gets there.
Yeah. Puts us in this really interesting early adopter phase, and we're seeing this influx of developers and startups and entrepreneurs, innovators looking to offer up AI applications specifically for the transportation industry. As we enter this phase, and as transportation companies are exploring their options, they're looking at the marketplace, and they're trying to find the right fit for their businesses. What do you see as some guidance you would give them on how to find what the right fit is, and also what are some of the potential stumbling blocks you see for AI adoptions? What are some of the mistakes that companies can make along the way?
Yeah, definitely. So as you mentioned, we are still at early adopter cycle within transportation, but the shift changes across all industries. So what ends up happening is you hear about AI in your daily life. You hear about ChatGPT. Most people, as consumers, are already using it, or Google search, which also has AI built into it in terms of the results. So truly, like I mentioned, we are lucky to be alive right now. And this trend is much bigger than mobile, much bigger than cloud, in my opinion. And what this is, challenging our customers or transportation stakeholders to do is want something similar in their work life. But the key thing to ask is, hey, will generic foundational models or AI work for transportation? I think the key thing to ask is integrations. Does this have access to my data? How is it getting access to my data? And how does it use that data in order to learn and perform a task? So, transportation is so nuanced. So, generic tools will not be able to help since they don't have integration specific to this, right? And hence, context is also missing for them to be able to perform. So, that is the first question to ask. The second one to ask is what to expect in terms of accuracy, in terms of task completion, so that you're able to better prepare your team for change, whether it is handling exceptions, whether it is handling questions about what accuracy to expect. Those are really important. Then, lastly, being able to measure ROI through that. Deploying AI can give immense amount of efficiency up to the finish line. And when used well, there's significant ROI that you are able to measure. But taking the help and leverage of some of these AI companies, including ours, in order to be able to ask those questions, prepare for change, and measure ROI is key and critical while thinking about AI and adoption. And ultimately, it's like, what can AI do for me? What does it mean for my bottom line? Those are always great questions to ask.
Well, we certainly covered a lot of ground in this conversation. But before I let you go, I'd love to hear any final thoughts you might have about the future of AI and technology adoption in the trucking industry. Crystal ball question here to wrap up on. In your view, how will this industry be different 10 years from now?
Gosh, crystal ball questions. Maybe we are recording this, and 10 years from now, I'll go back and listen to this to see how accurate we were. But we envision AI workers in every company. I think all mundane work will be automated. However, I truly believe that humans will still be at the center of decision making and relationships, which, no matter how good technology can get, we humans rely on relationships. Our customers rely on that. So I think those are areas where we'll still be in control. But I think, we are preparing for a future of having AI colleagues.
Yeah, and relationships are so important in the transportation industry. In that trusted partnerships and relationships are so critical. I also don't envision that changing. Just the way that we proceed and the way that we manage our companies likely will change. This has been a great conversation, but I think we've reached a good stopping point here. Thank you again, Deepti, for joining the podcast and sharing your insights. It's been a great conversation.
Did you know you can ask Alexa to open transport topics?
Before we close,
in just
let's
1
take a
minute,
moment
you will
to
hear the
revisit our
biggest
original
trucking
question.
headlines of that day.
How can
Be
AI
prepared
improve
and
the
start
way
your morning off
transportation
right with
companies manage their
transport
operations?
topics.
As we've heard during this episode, AI is making it increasingly possible to connect the many disparate systems and sources of information that trucking companies rely upon to manage their fleets. This can lead to streamlined workflows, automated processes, and better business decisions. Today, the transportation industry is only just beginning to unlock the potential of AI, but the potential use cases are virtually endless. If you've enjoyed this episode of RoadSigns, please let others know. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If my questions have sparked questions of your own, share them with me and the RoadSigns team. You can email us at share@ttnews.com. We'll read them and respond daily. Also, let us know how we did by texting TT Survey to 571-622-0001. And of course, we'll be back soon with a fresh episode of Road Signs. Until then, I'm Seth Clevenger. Thank you for listening.